Welcome to part 3 of this starting from scratch, creating a two-dimensional character. This is Sebastian again. We're live. I'm pretty certain we're live, but alright, let's see. Alright, so this is where we left off yesterday. We had created the eyes using Blender, so we didn't go to any external apps in order to create it. We're going to do the exact same thing today, but we're going to work on the mouth this time. Originally, what I was doing was actually working on the mouth shapes using Photoshop, but the problem with that is I don't like it. It's a little bit clunky getting the shapes right. I prefer to do it directly in Blender because I can actually model them. So I'm going to show you exactly what I mean by that. So we're going to hide this character. Actually, let's keep him in there for now. What we'll do is we'll create a new collection and we'll call this one mouth shapes. Okay, so with that, actually let's bring these two into it. It's going to be really helpful because then we can easily just switch that on and off, and so I don't touch it, or we can just do that and it disappears completely. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start out in object mode and create a plane. Yep, where do we go? Alright, we're up there, so let's bring this down. We don't need it all the way up there. Alright, so we've created this plane. We're going to rotate it on the X90. It's going to keep going up there because of that. Individual origins, let's just go up here. Okay, let's bring the origin down there. Alright, so we've got this, and what I'm going to do is just quickly create a new shader, emission shader. And what are we going to do? We're going to leave everything as is. We don't really need to mess with that too much now. Make sure we're in Eevee, because this entire thing we've been doing in Eevee. I don't even know if I mentioned that to begin with. So we're going to leave it in Eevee. We're going to go to film and transparent. Okay, so with the eyes originally I was doing it using it more like a matte rather than using the alpha, but we're going to be doing it with the alpha this time because I found that it's actually easier to create the mouth with the alpha because we can actually create the outline. So as you saw yesterday, we created the outline for the shape of the eyes, but we did it manually, and it's a bit clunky doing it that way because it's kind of too much guesswork, whereas I found a way to do it a little bit easier for the mouth, and retroactively we can even do that for the eyes really. So what I'll show you today you can use for the eyes as well. It's quite handy. So what we're going to do is go into edit mode, and we're going to add a couple of loops to it. How many do we want? Let's do that. Okay, this might be a little bit too much, but I believe it'll come in handy to have a couple of extra loops while we're doing this. So what we're going to do firstly is go into our modifier stack and just put a subdiv in it. Pump that up to 3. It shouldn't run too slow because we don't have a lot of vertices in here. So we'll go front facing and make sure you have your symmetry on. So your X symmetry on, okay? So then that way when we grab one side, it'll affect both sides. And we've also got a proportional editing, which comes in handy when doing exaggerated mouth shapes like this. You know, if we want to do something like an exaggerated angry mouth, we can just do something like that. And you can already start to see it's taken shape. So if I take away everything, you see that it's already taken shape. It's flat, but it gives us an idea of what the actual face, the mouth is going to look like. We'll go back into front facing mode, and we'll bring everything back so we know what we're doing, what we're working with. Okay, so what we want to do is actually start out with a standard what expression, what facial expression your character would have if it wasn't smiling or anything. So it's kind of like a standard expression, I guess. So we'll get rid of the proportional so we can have a little bit more control over that. And we're going to try and get it as tight as possible. So a standard sort of quasi-smiling sort of thing. And this will just be our line art, because the system I'm going to show you in a second is going to cause the interior of this to kind of disappear. So let's get in there tighter and actually just select that, scale it on the Z. Yeah, there we go. Scale it on the Z as well. No, what do we need? We need individual median. Alright, so from the median point, we will scale it on the Z, so it gives us a little bit more play there. It's already done on the other side because we've activated the symmetry. We'll do the center here, so scale on the Z. Perfect. Alright, so that is our sort of standard sort of mouth shape. Okay, so we'll actually bring that up on the Z a little bit. So if you click G and Z, it'll take it directly onto the Z axis without you screwing it up. Or if you think you might screw it up, just go into front facing mode and then that'll bring it up anyways. That'll bring it up properly. Okay, so that's our standard mouth. All right, that would be like a sort of quasi-smiling sort of face. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go into our shape keys. Okay, so this is our standard mouth, and we want to add that as our base. So we'll get out of edit mode, we go into object mode, and then you'll see that this lit up, the plus sign. We'll add that. It says basis, so that's our base. That's our base shape. And so what we want to do is we want to add a new one. And we'll go back into edit mode, and let's see what we're going to make first. So first we'll make a smiling face. How's that? So we'll go back into our front, scale it on the Z, grab these three, scale them on the Z, grab the center one, scale on the Z. That way we can see what we're doing. Let's turn our proportional back on. So that's O, or just click it up here. And we'll turn off the proportional for a second so we can just adjust this. And we'll go for a little bit of exaggerated sort of smile as opposed to like a really thin one. We'll go for, yeah, more cartoony. Yep. There's that. We can even, if we want to, just go into edge select mode, and then just with the shift, let's see how this looks. Is that going to shift? No, it's not going to give us enough. What we need to do is, I believe we need to select 3. Yeah, there we go. And that gives us a little bit of a sharper point, but the problem might be, it might be too sharp. So let's turn off all the overlays. Yeah, too sharp, don't like it. We'll bring that back and just get rid of it. But we can do the edges if we want to. So it depends on the character, really, on your character design. So Shift E, and that'll give us a nice sharp point. We'll turn off the overlays and it'll give us a sharper point. That's not too bad, actually. Alright, when I click out of edit mode, you'll notice that it goes back to this. Doesn't mean we've lost it, it's still here. As soon as we click, well, we slide this to 1, you'll see that it goes and animates all the way to the to the shape that we had made. So we'll actually get rid of that now. We'll zero it out. Go back into edit mode because we've got this highlighted. So if you click on that, it'll highlight that one. So we've got this highlighted. I actually want to get rid of those sharp points. Bring back our overlays. Don't like them. I like it a little bit more round. It looks a little bit more cartoony. So let's round it out. Get rid of it completely. And yeah. Okay, that's our second mouth. So that's our smiling sort of mouth. I might actually bring this up just a touch more. So proportional editing. Yeah, that's the way. That's what I wanted. Okay. So that's our smiling face. We've got a smiling face there. Let's rename it to smile. Mouth, smile. Yep. And we'll create a new one and bring that down. And this one, let's create a, what do? Let's just do like a surprise, like O sort of. So mouth dot O, the big O, big zero. Alright, so we'll go back into the edit mode, front facing, select this and scale on the Z. We'll whoop that right up there. A little bit bigger, proportional editing off, go to the center. And now we're just going to have to bring all of these in because it's like kind of like a surprise sort of O. And let's see where we end up. And there we go. How's that? So it's kind of like a surprised sort of O. Actually, I might do this. That's it. That's more surprised. So you can just, well, you have to kind of use your imagination in situations. So you kind of got like teeth here at the top and the tongue. So it's more, instead of an O, it's if we bring this down, actually we can turn it into an O. And then we'll do a separate one completely where we have the tongue sticking, and that'll be more of a scream sort of. Yeah, so both of them will have the teeth up the top, but with the O we'll kind of let's see, proportional editing, and then just how's that, scale on the X. So I'm thinking, yeah, probably tape it into the bottom a little bit. Yeah. Okay, so that's that one. We'll get out of edit mode, and when we slide it, you see that it's there. We've still got our smile, and we're back on our base. Okay, so we'll create a third one, because I'm not going to create all of them during the video, because then, you know, we'll be here all night, all day, whenever you're watching this. But now what we'll do is I'll create kind of like a screaming, like ridiculously oversized mouth. So let's just call it mouth scream. Yeah. And we'll go into that. Front mode. Scale Z1. No. Scale Z. Let's just go and scale Z. Did we go reverse? Might not do a scale. What I'll just do is turn off the proportional and just boost it up, because we're going ridiculous with this one. It'll take ages to do with the scaling method. So let's push this up. looks like an upside down sausage looking thing. Yep. Perfect. That's what we want. Now what we're going to do is we've got 4 mouth shapes, so we need 4 frames, and we're going to end this on 4 for now because we need to render them out. Okay, and we'll bring this down to 0. So on frame 1 we want it to just be normal, so we'll just do I. So all of them start at 0. Go to frame 2, and then with the second 2 go I, and this one pump it up to 1, click I on it, and then with the third one bring that down, I, all the way, I, and we'll go to the fourth one, do the exact same thing, so bring this all the way down, click I, and then I, that one, and number 1. So then you see it loops through all of them with only 1 frame, which is exactly what we need. We don't need to have all of them kind of like morphing from, as you saw before, how it was kind of morphing from one to the other. Oh, hey Goofy King, how you doing? Good to have you back. So we have now these four mouth shapes. Okay, and so what we're going to do now is we are going to make sure that we've put that in transparent. We can actually check it through here, but first what I want to do is yep, so we don't have any background, which is good. I'm glad you like it. So what we're going to do now is I've created a file output. We're going to go into the properties. Right, so I've got the mouth shapes, then I'm going to put them into this folder, PNG, so RGBA, so you've got the alpha in there, which is important. Get rid of the compression, we don't need any of that. Seeping in, and let's see. Alright, now we're going to do is we're going to create a viewer node so we can see what we're doing. So output viewer, put this here, output, and we haven't rendered anything, so nothing should come up yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to render the animation. No camera in the scene. Here we go. Alright, so we need to be in front facing mode, Shift A in object mode, and just create a camera. And what are we going to do? We're going to Control Alt 0 to turn our camera into, well, to put a camera where we are. And we're going to put this, I'm going to change this to 2048 because that's our, as you remember from last night, that's the size of our textures. So we've got 4 frames here only. We don't have to worry about that for now. And so what we need to do is, in our camera settings, turn the perspective into orthographic, and you'll see that it got rid of like that any distortion, which is exactly what we need. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and center this a little bit more better. So where are we? Let's just go back to front. Alright, so if we hold our shift and middle mouse click, we can kind of center it a little bit. That'll do. That's fine. Doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to alter that later on anyways. So we've got our camera set up, and That's set to 64. Doesn't have to be any higher. I mean, you could probably boost it up to 128. But it's not going to make a great deal of difference. So what we're going to do is now can you volume up on your mic? Oh yeah, I'll put the volume up on the mic. Just a second. Alright, let me know if that's better. So what we're going to do now is render out the animation. So you see it's actually going through all four of the shapes. And where are we? Okay. Excellent. Cool. Good to know. Alright. So what we'll do is now we'll add a dilate and erode. And we'll put it, where are we going to put this? We're going to put this here and feed our alpha into the viewer node so we can see what we're doing. Leave that at step for now, I believe. Yep. Okay. So you'll notice that I'm actually eating away at the render that we just did. So this will very much depend on what it is that you want to do, like as in how thick the mouth shape is that you want to do. Because if you want to do it like very pencil thin, like it'll just affect how it is that how much of a distance in minus that you put into it. So what we're going to do now is feed it. We're going to feed it into our output node, but we're actually going to create two inputs. So our first input will be the mouth. Why do I keep doing? There we go. Mouth outline. Right, which will actually give us the entire image. It's not going to be as yesterday where we just had the outside penciled in. We're going to actually have the whole thing in there. So that'll be the first one. Okay, and then we're going to create a new one and call this mouth. Sweet Jesus. Interior. I'm just going to call it int for now. Okay, so our image, it's going to feed right into the outline. So we don't want that one to be altered, and we do want this one to be altered. Okay, so what's going to happen is we're going to export a full size one, then we're going to export one that's been trimmed down or eroded by this node here. So this node's going to eat away at it by 10 pixels, I believe it is, and that's exactly what we need in order to create the mouth shape. So let's go into that by clicking render animation. Render animation is not really going to, because it's going so fast, it's not really going to show you what it's doing, but we will see it now. Turn that off, go into shading, and you'll see this is the folder that we actually exported it to, and you'll see that we've got mouth interior 1 through 4 and mouth outline 1 through 4. Okay, so let's go in, let's create a test dummy to mess with. So we can actually get rid of that camera now. We don't need that one anymore, because if you need to create that again, you can just create a brand new camera and just turn it to orthographic. It's the same thing. So what we'll do is we will hide that mouth actually, just in case we need it, and we'll create a new selection, new collection, and we'll create a cube. GZ, go into our textured, not our rendered. Control 5. No, 4. Did I click? Yeah, 4. Alright. We don't need 5 because it might be too much detail for now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into a subdivisions, make sure that's on 4, smooth it out, and when we go into edit mode, we're going to want to create, so click 3 so we can select this face, and click 2 so we see all the edges, and mark the seams. There we go. Okay, so what we can do now is I might mark these two as well, but I won't mark the back ones just so it keeps it all as one segment. Alright, so we go to UV editing, make sure that we have this one selected first, and we're going to do an unwrap so it does it as the full size, and we don't need that. What we actually need to, we don't need that for now. So invert it, so we're not selecting this front face anymore, we're selecting the rest of it, and we can just select all of that, scale it to 0 to get rid of it because we're not interested in that for now. We only want this one. Okay, so if you click on that, you'll see it's taken over the entire thing. That's all you need. Alright, so we've already got, do we have, oh no, we haven't added. We'll add, let's add an emission because we want that sweet cartoon looking thing. So we've got the emission, and we'll go into shading now so we can play around with this. We'll close that by clicking N, so then we can have a little bit more real estate. Alright, so what we're going to do is, first we're going to start out with the outline, and then we're going to overlay the interior. Okay, so what we're going to do is select the outline ones and drag it into our shader editor, our node editor. Alright, now if you actually add a, what's it called, texture and do image sequence, it's actually going to already set it up to be an image sequence. But if you do it the way that I've done, all you need to do is just image sequence it, change this. So you need to know how many frames you have. So in this case we've got 4, so we're going to go 4, offset it by 1, so it starts at 1 because 0 was nothing. And then we've got the auto refresh, keep that on. Alright, and like yesterday, we will add an import UV map. Just make sure that it's plastering it exactly where we need it to. UV map. Actually, there's one thing that I forgot to do is, let's select these faces. No, we want to select that one, and we'll just scale it down just a touch. The reason being is when we invert the selection, you'll notice that we've got all of these here down on this side, and we don't want it to affect this. So we can actually probably scale that up a little bit because you saw it's right on the edge just here, so it's not much of an issue there. Okay, it's not going to get in our way. Back into the shader. Let's see, where is our ball? Edit mode. That's our front. Okay, so make sure we're facing the right way. Then we'll create mix shader, and what are we creating? What are we creating? We want a black emission shader. Black is going to be our outline. I mean, you know, it just depends on what kind of, you know, outline color you want. Can I ask you a question about Blender? So I downloaded Blender after I downloaded Blender. It'll ask you what drive do you want Blender to be in. So I have 2 drive, for example, put on the second, and then are you asking me what drive you should install it on? I mean, it doesn't really matter. I just probably wouldn't install it onto your C drive. And it also depends on the version of Blender that you've downloaded. So you've got the installable version, you've got the zip version. If you're going with like an experimental one, in which case you just unzip it into any folder, it doesn't really matter. So Yeah, I wouldn't put it onto the C drive. It just, if you've got a scratch drive, not a scratch drive, if you've got a secondary drive, it's always better to keep it separate. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pump the black into that one, the blue into this one, and see if we've got the right one. Nope. Let's reverse that. There we go. So what's happened here is we're actually on the second, so we're missing 0. So 0 is actually missing because it's gone to frame 0, so we'll actually offset it, take it back to 0, and I believe start frame, yep, okay. For some reason it starts with 0. Now you notice when I switch frames, it kind of glitches out a little bit. Yeah, so Goofy King, I'd definitely put it into the second drive because yeah, it will start eating. I mean, Blender's not that big anyways, but you know, you don't want it to start. You don't want it to use the same hard drive as your operating system. So as I was saying, you'll see when I switch the frames, kind of that one's massive. I've got to reduce that one. You'll see that it kind of glitches out just a touch around when I let go of it. Around here, it starts to glitch out. So if I go to frame 1 and go as soon as I let go of the mouse, it kind of refreshes, which is why we clicked auto refresh, I guess. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually change the UVs and load up, where are we? Mouth outline 1, go to frame, that's the one. So what we actually will need to do is resize this up a little bit and probably just go over just a touch. I might actually just put it down, where are we? Yeah, I might put it down there. And just try to center it as much as possible. And let's go to different frames. Yep, how's that? Perfect. So let's center that so we can see it a little bit better. Switch off our overlays. So you see, now we've got the mouth exactly where we want it. Okay, so we'll go back in the shading mode and we'll add, what are we adding? Another emission. And we'll make this one white for the teeth, but we will actually make teeth after this. So we've got a way to make teeth as well. So we'll duplicate that, reduce that one, and we'll grab our mouth interiors here and drag that over here, do the exact same thing, image sequence, and start at 0, go to 4, because I believe that's what we did. We did 4, yeah? Yep. Okay. So we've done 4, and now we're going to pump the alpha of this one. So we'll actually use the same UV map because we want to match exactly where the other one is. And we'll get the alpha and pump it into the second one. Alright, and that's gonna go, let's see, might have to flip this. Yep. Let's see. Nope. What are we doing? So that one doesn't do it. What we need to do, it's a good question. Might be white first? No. So the outline should be on the first one, because that's the first one that cuts through. And for some reason, it does not want to cooperate. Actually, we might have to check out these images, see what we got. Mouth interiors. Yep, that should be working fine. Oh, that was the problem. Let's see. Yes, so that was the problem. We were on a frame that we weren't meant to be on. So if it looks like nothing's gone right in it, it's because we're in the wrong frame. Okay, so that's meant to be our smiley face. So what has happened is we've actually turned it upside down. So we just need to do 180 and bring it up. There we go. Much better. So then when we go through the... No, what's happened here? So frame 2, so auto refresh. Always got to remember that auto refresh, or else you're not going anywhere. There we go. So we'll actually get rid of the wireframe so it doesn't confuse me, because I thought that maybe it was kind of clipping a little bit. Alright, so it's kind of warping sort of a little bit there. We can actually fix that by just bumping this up, or when we're actually rendering it out earlier, bumping up the subdivisions. I mean, like for this test it doesn't really matter, that's fine. So then we have our mouth set up. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to apply this to the alien, but first what we want to do is I want to show you how to create the teeth, because if I put this if I put teeth directly in, because the original system I had set up was I had the teeth actually inside and it was 3D objects, and the problem with that was the problem with that was that when we actually created the inverted hull in order to give it an outline, it would start glitching out a little bit and like start shooting little black lines everywhere. We don't want that, so we're actually gonna fake it till we make it. So where are we? So this cube can go in there, and we'll create a new collection, hide this one, and what we're going to do is go to our layouts, and we're going to create a tooth. I'm going to show you to create two different kind of teeth in this, because I've noticed that a lot of cartoons, like either they'll have kind of straight edge, sort of like really, like every tooth kind of looks the same, and then there's ones where it's kind of like Rick and Morty style, where it's kind of all over the place, where like the teeth don't look like they match at all. So what we're going to do is create a cube. We're going to edit it and scale it on the Y, bring it across there, and just scale it down a little bit, because it doesn't have to be massive. Scale it on the X to give it kind of like a rectangle sort of feel. Alright, and then we'll just create a subdivide and punch that up a little bit. Again, because we're not going to need to animate this, you can go a little bit nuts with that. Not too crazy, but alright. So let's delete the top face. We don't need that, obviously. Even if it's top or bottom teeth, we're not going to see that unless you are going to see it. If you are going to see it, then I would probably even just leave it and then click Shift E and kind of bring it up just a touch. In case you need to see it kind of going into the gums. In my case, you know what, screw it, let's just leave it in there for now, and give it a smooth shade. I might bump this up to 5 because I can still see it's a little bit choppy, but that's fine. And so what we'll do now is we'll array it and bring this up here, because I've noticed every time I apply the array and it's down here, it splits it. We don't want that. and that's why, because we've got the gap right there in the middle. So let's do 0.85, a little bit less. We don't want it touching too much. So what have we got? With the shift selected, we can slide it in a little bit closer. That'll do. And for this, let's just do 6 teeth. So 5, yep, that'll create 6 for us. And what do we want? What do we want? What do we want? We want to solidify it. And actually, let's go back in here and create the teeth material, and that'll be an emission shader. Just leave it at white. Doesn't need to be anything else. We can probably even pump this up to 2, so it's like insanely bright. Maybe 3, yeah. Since our bloom's not on, it's fine. It won't create any sort of weird sort of effect. And plus, it doesn't really matter because after we create the teeth, we're not going to need this anymore, so we can even delete it if we wanted to. We'll create a second one, and in this case, we'll do again an emission. Put it down to black, backface, culling, we'll do alpha hash. You can do alpha blend as well if you want, doesn't really matter. No shadows. And now in our solidify, so we can close these up for now. In our solidify, let's invert it. Even thickness, get rid of the fill, flip, normals, and punch us to 1, and that, as you see, gives us our outline. Now this is the reason why I choose not to use the 3D teeth, because when you go on the side, you'll notice that it starts glitching out a little bit. We don't want that. See how perfect it looks from the front? This is exactly what we want it to look like, no matter what angle I'm facing. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to, first I'll show you how to create the normal teeth, and then I'll show you how to create the kind of like wonky sort of teeth, like what you'd see in Rick and Morty, where the teeth just don't look the same at all. Okay, so we'll go to object mode, and we'll select the teeth again, G, X, and kind of center that so we can put it right in the middle. And again, in object mode, we will create, what are we going to do? We're going to create a camera. Shift A, create a camera. Camera settings, we'll change it to orthographic again, because we don't want any bending. We don't want any warping at all. It has to be directly front on and just see exactly what we see when we're in front mode. So then that way we can actually project this onto geometry and it's not going to be warped in any way. Okay, so that's fine there. We'll just go into camera view, and there we go. So shift, I believe, to shift and put it in the center. That's fine. And we need to move this a little bit closer, so I think to do so we'll just boost this down until we're almost touching, but not exactly. We'll just leave it there. And alright, so now we're going to change. So before we were doing textures that were exactly square, but we don't need that now. We actually need it to be, we need it to kind of match the shape. The resolution needs to match the shape of our teeth. Now, up here is going to be what we occlude, what we don't really show. It's going to be just above the lips. So these are going to be our teeth. And then what we're going to need is we need a little bit of gap here, because when we render it out, what I've noticed is that right at the bottom we've got like a slight line that shows through. So we're actually going to use our UVs to kind of cut that out a little bit so we don't see that, and then we don't lose the illusion at all. So that should be fine in terms of shape. We don't really need it to be any bigger than that. I mean, like if you're doing this for a production, maybe do the texture a little bit bigger. I don't think it's much of an issue. You know what? Screw it. Let's do it a little bit bigger. Why not? Let's do this 1500, and then bring this up. Just a ridiculous. I mean, it's Eevee, so it's going to render extremely fast, anyways. So that's fine. All right. So we'll do that. We'll go back into compositing, and we need to get rid of this road now. We don't need that anymore. And this we're going to have to change because we've already created the mouths. We don't need to do this again unless you haven't, in which case you might want to just create a new file output, but we don't need this anymore, so it's fine. So what we're going to do is, can I delete this? I'm pretty sure I can. Remove from, no. Alright, apparently we can't delete it. That's fine. Just rename this. Teeth. I'll just rename it teeth. That's fine. That's all we need. Okay. So let's just do a F12 render. See, that was extremely quick, and it was a really big file. It's like 5K. And yeah, that's all we need for now. And click V to zoom out. Actually, that goes back in there. Image, that's our texture. Now, because we've got it already plugged into here, technically, there we go, teeth. For some reason, it's put it on the third, because we're in the third frame. Doesn't really matter. We can even rename that if we want. Not really important for now. So going back into layout, get out of camera to view. So we'll get rid of that. And we won't delete this now because we will need it in a second. In fact, I might actually show you while this is still set up. What I'll do is I'll go to number 4. Just so it doesn't override the other one, which it will override it. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a, what are we going to do? Displace. And it's going to completely blow it up, which is fine. What we need to do is now create a texture. So what we're going to do is go to, bear with me. So we're going to create a new, and then click this, I don't know what this is meant to be. So texture, yep. Okay. So from here, we're going to go to Stucky, I'm assuming is how you pronounce it. Change this Blender original to Voronoi F3, and still looks ridiculous. That's fine, don't worry about that. Wall it in, keep it at soft, and then let's just put this up to 1.24, and this one we'll do it around 17, and still looks like nothing. That's alright. I'll show you what happens now when we bump this down. Okay, so we're gonna do is put the displace at 0.4 for the median. Local normal is fine. Okay, so this one minus 0.1, no, a little bit less, 0.15, nope, minus, always remember the minus. Okay, so we're going to have to kind of play around with this one just a touch to kind of rein it in, and you'll notice, there we go. We've got kind of like a weird sort of warped effect. If we click shift, we'll be able to kind of rein it in a little bit slower. Go back into here and we can see can even play around with that if we want to mess around with the shapes. That one doesn't really do much. You can even probably play with the F4 and F2. It'll give you completely different looks, but for now this will be fine for what we need. There we go. All I want is for it to be slightly, different, so it's not all exactly the same. So what we'll do is we'll actually get rid of the solidifies. We'll change the solidify. So what I'm going to do is put it on 0. Just so we've got a little bit more of the sharp edges. And let's see if I bring this down. And there we go. That's fine. That works. Okay. So now technically, if we click F12, it should not override the other one. Let's go into our shaders. There we go. We've got 2. Perfect. That's all we need. So we've got the perfect teeth and we've got the not so perfect teeth. Alright. So we can either delete that or just hide it by clicking H. Hide that one as well. So we'll put both of these into collection 4 and we'll call it teeth. And there we go. Alright, so we'll bring back our collection. Has our face on it. For some reason it's gone completely black. And that's right. It's because we're again in a empty frame. Okay, so what we'll do is we're going to duplicate this. And the reason I'm showing you on this one as opposed to showing you on the alien is just so you understand what you have to do with it first before you apply it to something that's a little bit more complicated. Because it's, as you saw with the shader system with the other ones, it's a bit of a pain. So what we're going to do is we've duplicated this. So we've got, well, that was our first one. So we've got the second one duplicated there. And what we want to do is hide this one for now so we don't mess with it. Alright. And we'll create, and what will we create? We will create the inside of the mouth. And the way to do that is we'll create a cube and we'll do Control 4, set that to smooth, bring that up, bring it, G, Y, G, Z to kind of bring it down there and just scale it down. We'll go to our biggest mouth, which I believe was that one. No, we have to go through here. Let's see. That was our biggest mouth. Yep. Alright. So that's fine. We just need to go a little bit bigger. And scale it on the Z so we can bring it down. Rotate it on the Y. Nope. Rotate it on the X. Yep. Still can't see the mouth. And it kind of digs into the face a little bit. So what we're going to do is with this one, we'll create a new emission and we'll go pinkish. Okay, and we are going to apply, let's go a little bit less for now because we can always subdivide it later on a little bit more. We can just apply that. we can bring this down to the same amount. Actually, no, we need that one to be exactly as it was with the other one, so we'll make sure that it is 5, 5, yep. Okay, so this one will apply as well. So what we're going to do is, with the mouth selected, we're going to do a boolean, and let's actually change this one to visibility wired. So that way we'll be able to see exactly which boolean operation we need, which is that one, because we want it to be the inside of the mouth. Not that one. Cool. Alright, so we'll apply that. And we'll see what we're working with. So what we need to do is, we can actually get rid of this for now. And selecting that, let's see. Alright, so everything's an outside. So what we want to do is 3, make it easier on ourselves here. Just select the faces we actually want to keep and invert it, delete it. And we need to flip it because we actually want to see this, not the outside, because this is obviously going to be inside the head. So what we want to do is 3 and select everything with A and flip the normals. Okay, so using the face orientation feature, we can see this is, whatever's in blue is what's going to show through, whatever's in red is going to be invisible, or at least that's going to be not visible to the camera. Okay, so we'll bring back our face, and it's like going crazy, so we'll get rid of that. And you can see, we can actually see the shape that's already in there, and that's fine, that's all we need. Actually, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go into that, bring that to, and we want to select those and actually go into our vertex group. Make sure we've got our vertices selected for that outside edge, so the edge that we've just booleaned up. And mouth, interior. Okay, so let's put it at 1, invert the selection and put that at 0. And now what we're going to do is we're actually going to shrink wrap it to the inside of the face using that vertex group. And the reason we want to do that is it's so that it sticks to that. Let's make sure that we're not screwing this up. Is it actually, nope, it's not sticking on the inside. For now it should be fine, but let's actually just cut this hole out. So what we're going to do is go into the shading of this one. Now, instead of having this white, what we want to do is actually go and Shift D to the mix shader, add a transparent shader. Okay, and then the mouth interior that we had pumped into here, we can get rid of that one and we can just pump it directly into this one and then invert it. Is that right? Let's see. No, we don't want to invert it, do we? What have we? Backface culling. Hashed blend Let's see. There we go. So now obviously this is going to be restrictive in like how much you can turn with it, but there is a way around it. But for now, there is a way around it. We just need to animate the actual inside of the mouth with the mouth. But for this lesson, let's just assume that you're going to be doing mostly a two-dimensional character, which is what I had planned for this guy anyways. So as you can see, we can see inside the mouth. If we actually change the material to principled BSDF, you'll notice that we can actually see the shape, the inside. Okay, which is exactly what we need. Wondering, no, that's not making much difference. That's fine. We can just when we add a armature to the face, we just need to make sure that we parent this to the head, so we don't lose that, like it doesn't fly off unexpectedly. So what we want to do now is, what did we want to do? We need to add a subdiv to the inside of this mouth, just so, because it doesn't have a lot of information there. So let's pump that up to 3, and so it's just so it's a bit smoother. And we go here. Let's see if that helps. No. See, the problem with this shader is that we will see all those, because it's got a lot of vertices. You'd kind of have to go into that and delete them all, which is why this emission shader is such a much more useful way, because it kind of gives you a cleaner finish. But anyways, I digress. Let's move on to adding the teeth to it. Okay, so what we need is a plane, and we're gonna rotate that on the X by 90 so it's facing us, and let's just scale that down on the Z. Bring that up, bring it forward just a touch and scale it down, and let's just apply scale and rotation so we don't have any issues later. And now let's get rid of, we don't need that. We'll add an emission so we don't have any strange color shifts, and we will play with the normal teeth for now. Now this one's going to be a little bit different, because before what we were doing is we were using the alpha to cut out the eyes, the mouth and everything, but this we're actually going to use the texture that we rendered out as our color, and the alpha is going to be in our mix and transparent. We're going to feed the alpha through and make sure that this is set to alpha hash. That's the one. And you'll see that we have the teeth there. Now we need to make it so it's not just free floating in the middle of the face. What are we on? We're on 1 hour and 3 minutes. Ooh, running long on this one as well. This actually takes a lot longer than I thought it would. Okay, so we're gonna go subdivide. It's gonna go all funny, but we don't want that. We want it to be on simple, and we'll just pump this up to 3 or 4. So we have some information in there. We'll actually look at the wireframe, and it's not showing us jack. Let's see. No, refuses to show us. Actually, let's I'm actually going to see, make sure that we're facing the right way. Yep. Cool. Because if it's not facing the right way, we might have issues later on. So what we need to do now is create, we're going to bend it with a simple deform, bend on the Z. So you start seeing it starts bending it forward. So we'll bring that forward a little bit. And so now it's kind of sticking out, which is not what we want. We want it to actually bend with the mouth. Well, I want it to. Like if you want it to like do the other way, then that's fine. Like it's not an issue. You can just leave it as it is, so it's just kind of sticking out kind of weirdly. But in my case, I want it to kind of bend with the face, so it kind of doesn't look bucktooth. So what we want to do is, this takes a little bit of messing around with it. So we need to select the head, select the teeth, and I believe we will need a restraint so it doesn't move away from the head too much. Nope. Project. Yep. Okay. Let's see if that bends it. There we go. And now we just need to move it away from the surface a touch, because I don't know if you can see it with the YouTube compression, if you can see that glitching that's kind of happening here. So we just need to offset it just a touch through. So we'll click shift and we'll just bring it the other way. And now we've got a bit of weird warping there. So let's see if we project, it warps it even more. Inside. Okay, so that's not what we want because it's too far away from it. And let's turn this off and see if that helps. So, no. So we actually need to bring it closer. Oh yeah. So let's set that back to 0. That's going distance on the Z. Let's see. That's doing nothing. That's going insane. No. So we're in local space. Let's see. All right. Let's see if. No. It's definitely this. It's warping it. Exactly what we need. So we might have to. Go GZ, bring it up. Okay. So it's kind of given me a little bit of strife to bring it forward. So let's see, there has to be too much. There we go. So we'll bring that down a little bit more. And then, perfect. That's exactly what we need. So now if we do GZ, you'll see that it follows the shape of the head. Okay, so let's say for instance, we have a different face shape like this, and we want to bring the teeth down or up. We can do that. We can also duplicate this and actually flip it and bring it down to replicate the bottom teeth if you want the teeth to be the exact same shape. Now, the good thing about this is we can also just bring in, if we wanted to have different teeth with this setup, just bring this here, get the color and the alpha, and then we have the different teeth. As you can see, it's all warped and stuff. Still follows the head, and that's all we need. Okay, and so what I would probably do here is let's try a simple deform bend on the X, and then kind of scale it on the Z. Bring this in a touch, and then it kind of follows the teeth a little bit, because I might even scale it, because I do plan to use these teeth for my character. I don't want the teeth to reach the edges, and what I could also do is add a subdiv there and just bring that down. And so let's see if I can just turn that off, scale Z there, and follow the face. Bring this one down again, so 2, G, Z, nope. Why are you going up that way? There we go. And so that way we have two-dimensional teeth inside our two-dimensional head. Even though it looks, you know, we're moving around in 3D space, we've got the illusion of a two-dimensional drawing. Now obviously, like I've used, I'm going to cut it short here and just with the next video I'll apply it to the actual character. And then we'll move on from there. But obviously, like, as you can see here, I've used an emission shader because I want it to be a flat sort of shade up, but you can use textures and things like that. And instead of using an emission shader, I mean, you could use an emission shader, I suppose, and just plug in a color, like an actual texture into that, or a diffuse shader, and just use that if you wanted to have a little bit more of a 3D sort of look, or even a Principled BSDF. Obviously, with those, the render times are going to be a little bit longer. That's the beauty of the emission shaders. It renders almost in instant, like in seconds. You'll be rendering frames like crazy. That's why I choose to use it, and plus, like, I like the two-dimensional feel of it, But yeah, so let me know if you have any other questions, both about Blender, using Blender, or about what we've seen in this video today or in the other videos. Remember to subscribe. If you have any questions, again, in the comments, leave them in there and I'll get back to you. I hope you're enjoying this. Let me know what you think. If there's any other topics you want me to handle. Again, if it's something that I know about, then I'll definitely touch base on it. If it's not, then I'll look into it and see if I can work it into my system that I'm using for this character. I'm glad you guys are joining me. Like Goofy King, I'm glad you're enjoying this. And I will see you guys tomorrow night. Okay, bye.